Hey, I'm Alex. I help companies save money by hiring on Upwork and Fiverr. So here's some ways that you can reduce your risk when hiring in categories you don't know anything about. That means hiring video editors, hiring programmers, hiring anything you don't know anything about. So there's three main ways to do it. The first one is to try to learn as much as you can about what a good programmer looks like, what a good video editor looks like, and what a good structural engineer looks like. Learn as much as you can. And if you feel comfortable that you know what a good person looks like versus a bad person, then you can kind of get started and hire that person. It's especially easy for design. Like, for instance, in this video, you can see that there's some blurriness in the background. You can see that there's pretty good lighting. Like, that's like from a video perspective. And then from the editing, how choppy is it? Does it feel choppy? How's the pacing? Like, there's all these things that you can learn. So there's a lot of professions that you can get good enough at just spotting what the pros do that you can hire. You can see what they do in their actual work, in their sample work, and then hire those folks. Some things it's not as easy, like programming. Hiring a programmer, if you don't know how to read their code and see what good code looks like, it's kind of hard. So if you can't learn enough to hire competently, the second thing is to find a trusted person in your network who can vouch and review the work of the freelancer that you hire. So when you're reviewing different profiles on Upwork or Fiverr and you don't know who's good or bad, you can look at the different projects. So you can see if the projects have, especially if they're on app stores, so if it's on the Google Play Store or on iOS, you can see the rating and the reviews of that project. If the project has low reviews, that's probably an indicator that it's not so good, especially if those reviews are specifically talking about backend or instability or crashing, probably not very good. But if it comes down to languages, so if this person has like PHP or Java or like those, like C# or something like that, like, does that mean anything to you? Maybe not. So having somebody who's in your network who can review these profiles with you and even talk to these programmers to give them some basic tests, especially in like iOS or web or whatever they're doing, that'll give you a better idea if they're using modern languages. So for instance, if they say that they're doing iOS and they want to use Objective-C, that's bad. They should be using Swift. It's 2021. So like having somebody who is trusted, who can review their profiles, talk to them, and then later on review their code, that's super, super helpful and is the least risky way to hire in categories you don't know anything about. And then the third option is kind of the YOLO option. So if you don't know anything and the cost of the project is relatively low, so it's low risk if it fails, then using what you can learn as much as possible, but also kind of looking at these secondary indicators. So like I was saying earlier about the reviews, if you see that the person has bad reviews, that's a bad person. If the person has not much code that's live, for instance, there's nothing on the App Store, projects that are live. Normally they won't show you the code, but they don't have projects that are on the App Store. There's not really any way to see what they've shipped. That's also kind of a red flag. So you want to see projects that they've shipped, and ideally you can kind of interact with them, use them, see how they work, if you find any bugs. If the project is relatively cheap, say $1,000 or $500, relatively low risk, you can just go ahead and hire them. So that's what I've typically done for programming, at least. If the project is relatively low cost, it's worth sometimes just getting started and seeing where it goes. A lot of times for these types of smaller coding projects, it's going to be an experiment. So if I can make an email capture app that goes and gets the local weather and asks the person for their email and their zip code so we can send them a local weather report every week. Something like that might be an experiment. And the key metric is, does it work? Does it get the weather? Does it send the email? If it works, then great. Okay, if you spend $1,500, $2,000 on that project, it's not going to be a big loss if it fails. And the way that you structure the deal, it can be milestone based, so you don't really lose that much money if they can't come through anyways. The main thing you would lose is time. So if the project is super, super important, I would definitely get someone else to review it. For instance, I was designing refugee shelters like a few years back, and I needed a structural engineer. I don't know anything about structural engineering. I'm not going to just hire a structural engineer and then not vet their work. So I worked with a family friend who's a civil engineer to find someone on Upwork who could do the structural analysis of this housing. And then when that person produced all the different sheets and codes and all these different deliverables that I couldn't read and didn't really understand, then I would hand it to my family friend to just review it to make sure that everything was done as expected. So that's to say that if the project's not that important, it's probably okay to use some of these third kind of ancillary cues of quality. If it is really important, then absolutely have somebody review it and help you hire and vet this person over time, or work with this person over time to make sure that the quality is good. And of course, educate yourself as much as possible. Regardless of if you can educate yourself enough to hire the person, educating yourself lets you have more intelligent conversations. They don't have to kind of dumb down the vocabulary. They don't have to worry if you understand course concepts. This is especially important for making products. So if I say we're making an MVP, if the client doesn't know that, it's kind of tough. So also think from the freelancer side, like they have all this jargon and all this knowledge, and they're trying to put it in a way that you can understand it without much knowledge. So the more knowledge that you have, the more intelligent conversations you can have, the better conversations you can have, and the better the project will be. So those are my kind of 3 tips on how to hire in sectors and in fields you don't know anything about. If you have any other ideas for videos you want, let me know. Drop it in the comment section. I'll be sure to make more videos. Leave a like if you like it, and subscribe to hear more. Thanks. Bye.